Welcome, Vern. Welcome, Eric. We'll get started here soon.
Morning, George.
Hey, Vern, is there anything today that you're wanting to any support on?
I've got a question.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jane. We're rolling live.
Got a question for you, George.
I'm gonna loop back in well, we got a moment here. I know we're live, but it's not quite noon yet. We've got people joining in. What's your question, Vern?
I recently had been turned down by a reject by 3 different companies.
Uh-huh.
And should we say, I'm puzzled. Is there these days, is there more focus on certification or education? I have both.
What feedback did they give you?
Well, they were saying that you're not certified in landscape architecture, but I've been doing that for a long time, and I'm graduated from that. And I don't have a certification in landscape architecture. I'm puzzled. I don't know.
Well, do you what do you have any well, you know what? I think let's loop back around to this, Vern. I have some ideas, but I'm going to want to check it out with you. And
Okay.
I think this is a good topic to explore because I know that the job market is definitely tough right now, and many people I'm talking to, it's taken them a while to land the job that they want, and as well as to get the offer. So but I think, first of all, to say, Vern, it's not you're certainly not alone in it. So we are going live here, Career Lab Wednesday, every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. I'm George Miller. I'm here to help support you in your career. The way that we look at your career is a pathway for you to reach your potential, a way for you to really develop the skills that you want, to the connections, the relationships that you want to develop. Is your job bringing you that satisfaction? And what are the challenges? Sometimes the challenges are times where people look to move to another company. Sometimes it makes a lot of sense. And sometimes there's a lot that you can learn by digging in and stretching yourself right where you're at. So all of that to say that we have, our topic is about EQ in the workplace, EQ at work. Are you aware of your emotional intelligence? Are you aware of your emotions, the feelings that you have in response to things? And are you able to use the data of your emotions in a way that has you making deeper contact with the people around you, and able to influence and able to build rapport and able to negotiate effectively? And that being said, any questions you have career related are welcome here. Anything that's on your heart, it doesn't have to be about this topic. You can have a question about a resume, a question about interviewing, a question about how to manage a relationship with your boss or your team. Anything is on the table here. I'll do my best to support you. My come from and my specialty is in emotions, and so I'll often ask a lot of questions to you if you're able to. I love it when you can jump in directly and work with us here on Zoom, so that I'm able to ask more questions and get a feel for what's going on with the challenge that you're having. If you can't do that, you're welcome to type your questions into the comment section. Jane will get those over to me, and I'll do my best to answer those. So we're talking about emotions at work. And I think I'll start off by sharing the developmental model, which is a tool that Dr. Bob and Judith Wright developed. It is really helpful in kind of understanding where what's going on inside of me regarding my emotions at any given moment. I'm just going to share my screen here and talk a little bit about this as we're getting going. So, and Vern, I think it might be fun to try to see if we can use this tool together. Are you game?
Great.
Okay, wonderful. So Vern has a question about being told that he doesn't have the certifications, even though Vern has years of experience, has the education needed. And so he's wondering, what's the deal with this? And so Vern, in these interviews, what is the primary feelings that you're having when you're told this?
Disappointment.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, I had gone through education and not being certified. I'm going like, seems to me that one should be trumping another, pardon the pun. But at the same time, because I have gone through school and have been doing that for really decades, actually. And I'm puzzled because, well, that in combination with the aspect that I wanted to touch base with you with regard to urban planning, I community development. I've been doing community development for over 15, 20 years. And I guess I kind of know what I'm doing, but I don't have AICP registration, certification.
So Vern, I want to check something out with you. Because if I really go for serving you, I can take some risks and say some things that might not be accurate, and some things that may land really well. In some of our trainings, we have a way of kind of showing this of if somebody has labels themselves as green, that means that they're very, very open to coaching, very open to feedback. If they label themselves yellow, that means, give me a little bit, but not too much. And if they label themselves red, that means just lay it on. Just tell me no, sorry. That means don't lay it on. That means I don't really share too much with me. I just kind of want to be heard. So of those three colors, where would you put yourself in terms of wanting coaching and feedback?
Actually, very receptive.
Okay, so you're green.
Yeah.
Okay. My hunch is, Vern, there's a lot of components here. One is that there's job scarcity. So there's a lot of people, and companies are wanting to get people in who work out really well in that position. And if I was going through and talking to people, if you said what you just said to me, that, hey, I have the experience, I've been doing this stuff, I don't need the certification, immediately my internal kind of warning bells go off. And I'm saying, you know what, I probably don't want to hire this person, because it doesn't sound like they're going to be open to adjusting things. And it sounds like they already know everything. And so in my experience, bringing somebody onto a team like that often has a lot of consequences for the team. And so just immediately right there, I would move your resume and things into the pile of, okay, we're probably not going to hire. Is that helpful?
Well, yes. I'm trying to say, gee, to have it turned around, I'm very enthusiastic about a person who's got experience that may in fact be way above those people who are, should we say, got the certification, but they frankly don't know beans.
Mm-hmm. And you know, the having that conversation in an interview or with people hiring you, it's a really sensitive thing, because as somebody hiring, I'm going to be very skeptical if somebody says, you know, oh, people have the certification, but they don't really understand. You know, I'm thinking to myself, wow, well, we have a lot of people here who have these certifications. And if I'm going to bring somebody on who, you know, looks down their nose at all of this, it's just not going to go well.
Huh.
And I'm going to talk through, I'm going to share this model again and share how I'm using it right now internally. So Vern, when you started talking and about it, I noticed myself, this is an internal map here. This has to do with human development and existential philosophy. And so I noticed that I felt afraid. I was afraid, Vern, to tell you what I thought. Because you know, for whatever reasons, like you might be mad at me that I told you that your feelings might be hurt. And so I felt afraid. I didn't want to, you know, I was afraid to take that risk, but I said, okay, hold on. I'm going to make the choice, because that would be in scarcity if I didn't say anything to you, Vern.
Sure.
But then I said, I'm going to make the choice. I'm going to choose to trust that I can give that feedback, and I'm going to check it out with Vern. I'm going to ask Vern. I'm going to trust that Vern's going to tell me, you know, what level of feedback he wants. And so instead of not saying anything, I said something. Then I'm also at the same time, I noticed, because I mentioned that thing about like, oh, I was afraid that Vern's feelings might be hurt. Well, I actually recognized, oh, I don't know anything about Vern. I don't know if his feelings are going to be hurt or not. That's actually me. Yeah. I'm afraid that I'm going to feel hurt when people tell me things that I don't necessarily want to feel. I often feel hurt. So I noticed that I had the regressive pull of hunger there, a hunger to be affirmed. And so internally, without saying anything out loud, I affirmed myself. And I said, oh, you got this, George. It's okay. You know, you can check this out. You know, you're not a bad person if this doesn't go great. Sure. And so that whole little process there of noticing the scarcity that I have and noticing my hunger for affirmation, just noticing those things, I was able to make the choices to bring something up. And now we can get into reactivity and assertion. So now reactivity, same thing. This has more to do with the feeling of anger. I could have said, like, inside, I could just be like, oh, you know, Vern doesn't get it, or, you know, something like that. I could have just kind of been resentful inside without ever even saying anything. And I noticed that, and I said, okay, wait, I'm going to assert, I have an intention to serve Vern here. And so that's how I set it up with, okay, what level of feedback do you want? And then now there's a thing going on here too, which is that there's a conformity happening because we're all in a group together. This has to do with belonging in groups and expressing truth. And so that, and this is an incredibly important thing, Vern. And I normally stop at the first three levels, but I think I'm going into the fourth level here, because I suspect that for you in this interview process, there's going to be ways that will serve you to conform to whatever group it is that you're going into. And if you're recognizing, oh my goodness, everybody here has certifications, or the vast majority, or they're hiring people that have these certifications,
Sure.
then you may want to look at it and explore those certifications and find out more about it. And then when you're in the interview, even if you don't have that certification, you could perhaps speak about it in a way that would let the person know who's interviewing you know that, oh, okay, we don't want to let this guy Vern go. If we really need to have him have the certification because that's part of the culture, then let's set that process up now. Let's get him going on it. And that way you're able then to express in a meaningful way in a group. Is that helping, Vern?
Yeah, it does. George, are you
Awesome.
talking the fact that you think that maybe certification is vital?
I can tell you personally that, me as a coach, I've been coaching 10 years, and there's certifications that if I'm going to coach in certain environments, there's basically no way I would get into those environments without certain certifications. And as I'm in the process of getting right now I'm getting the certification with ICF. And absolutely, I'll share this model again. I can share my process that I'm going through with this. So, there's all kinds of limiting beliefs. Another thing that's important to understand about this model is that a lot of this stuff is unconscious. This is our unconscious mind, and we're just trying to get our unconscious mind out in front of us so that we can make sense of it. And so as I'm going into getting certified, I'm noticing that, oh, wow. At first I noticed this reactivity of like, oh, I don't want to do this. I've already been coaching for 10 years. This is stupid. I just want to say no to it. I don't want to do it. And anytime that's happening, and so, if I'm saying no to something, it's hard to do it. Like, even if I'm like taking the class, I might on a day-to-day kind of way be saying no by saying, I'll review my sessions later, or I'll get to that later. And I'm essentially saying no, even if it's kind of unconsciously, but the result is the same, as that I'm not studying. And so if I'm just staying with the reactivity and I'm finding it hard to assert myself and get the certification, then it can be really helpful to look at where I'm breaking down on the first two levels. And so then I start digging in, because if I'm breaking down at level 3, it means that there's needs down here. Because remember, this is a developmental model, which has to do with getting nourishment and getting things that I need to develop. So that means that there's things down here I'm not getting. And so, okay, well, I clearly have a hunger for affirmation because I want to just be good enough. I want to be accepted. And I also have this scarcity of, oh my goodness, what if I can't do this? What if I'm not good enough to get this certification? What if it's been too long since I've been in school and studied something? What if I've forgotten how to do that? Because that's going to be hard. It's probably, I'm going to feel hurt while doing that. When I say feel hurt, you can even think of it like, lifting weights. And if I'm going to become a runner and I'm going to, get a 6-pack, I'm going to feel hurt because I'm going to be pushing my muscles to go to new territory. And so if I'm noticing that about getting a certification of like, geez, I just don't think I can do this, then it's helpful because I can see all the unconscious ways that I'm actually playing out not getting the certification, and the ways that I'm keeping myself in scarcity. I'm afraid that I'm not good enough. And instead of using the fear to guide me, I'm trying to avoid the fear and I'm not really moving. But if I can use the fear as a friend and say, okay, I'm going to choose to trust that my fear is going to help me prepare, is going to help me do what I need to do. The fear has been an incredibly important part of human existence. It's like why we're here. If we didn't feel afraid, we would have been eaten by animals and saber-toothed tigers, and we just never would even be on this planet right now. So fear is actually useful.
Yeah.
Just because I'm feeling fear doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. I can actually help it focus. So what I did was I said, okay, I'm afraid I don't know how to get this. I'm not fully understanding how to get this certification. And I use that fear for me to then have more conversations with people, and then have somebody say, you know what, I think you should talk to this one coach. They seem to be really good at helping people get this certification. And so right there, then also I'm acknowledging my hunger for development, my hunger for affirmation of saying like, wow, I can do this. And then I'm reaching out. And even that reaching out is now I'm in level 2, I'm playing. So I'm taking the aliveness, the fear, the excitement, and I'm now doing that in relationship with somebody else. So like Vern, with you earlier, like when I was talking about giving you feedback and feeling the scarcity of like, oh no, you know, what's going to happen if I do that? Am I going to be rejected, whatever? Well, I felt that aliveness, I felt that fear, and then I chose to engage with it and take that into relationship with you. And so then once I'm doing all this, so remember we started here with the ICF certification and my reactivity towards it. But once I'm noticing where I'm breaking down here, and there's nothing wrong with the regressive poles, the scarcity and the hunger, it's just noticing it and then saying, oh, okay, well, now that I'm understanding what's going on with me unconsciously, I can take more effective action. And my intention is to get my certification. My intention is to always be developing myself as a coach. So I'm in the mindset of, you know what, there will probably be another program and that I'll discover in 5 to 10 years. That's like, hey, get this certification. It helps with this. And I'll be like, I got to do that again. I thought I was already there. And I'll notice my reactivity. And I'll say, okay, what's going on underneath that reactivity? Okay, here's the ways I'm going to choose to trust, choose to affirm myself. I'm going to assert it, and I'm going to get it. And then, you know, once I get the certification, then I'm belonging in that group. I've conformed to that group. And now when I'm in that group, people will actually listen to me. Things I say, you know, will be heard. So conformity, learning how to conform to a group, is actually a skill. There's a lot of ways. It's like, you know, if I go to let's say I go to a networking event where everybody's wearing a suit and I show up in shorts and flip-flops. The majority of people there I'm not really going to hear anything I say. Unless I was super wealthy and I was just flaunting the fact that I can dress however I want in their faces. But for the most part, most people would just see me and I might go talk to them, but they've already written me off. And anything I say is not going to really have any influence with them. So learning what group I'm going into and how to conform to it, then actually has it so that I can express myself in a meaningful way in that group.
Thank you. By
You're
the way,
welcome, Vern. It sounds like this is helping.
I thought I took something I would share with you is that maybe a confession, and I'm lousy with tests. It took me several tries to get to be landscape architect. My certification as a landscape architect, I do have that RLA, registered landscape
Mhm.
architect, but it took me a lot of effort to get there. And maybe
Uh-huh.
I do have ADHD. It's been diagnosed that I do have ADHD, and I'm a lousy test taker. And
Mhm.
I'm not ambivalent to that, but at the same time, I'm, should we say, lousy.
So no wonder. So if you're looking at new certifications and you're knowing that there's going to be a test involved,
Yeah,
then there's going to be a significant amount of anxiety about that.
there is a test with regard to that. And I've sat for it actually twice
Hmm.
and failed each time. I do
Hmm.
have a desire to do that because I'm not ambivalent, like I said, to that. But at the same time, it's a challenge to become certified AACP, American Institute of Certified Planners,
Hmm.
the acronym.
Now,
Okay.
do you know where you break down in taking the tests?
If it was given verbal, I would fly. Actually, it's been known in high school, even in college, when I was given verbal tests. Some people really are reluctant about doing so, but my scores would be fantastic over the top.
Hmm.
So written tests, I fail on big time. I'm not sure that I'm proud of that, but that's a reality.
Got it. Yeah, no, but and so when you're taking the written test, do you know where is it that you get stuck? Where's the breakdown
where,
happen?
I'm sorry,
Where so um
I don't understand.
when taking the written test, is it that you're not processing the words?
I guess at the same time, maybe that's an issue, but oftentimes the recollection of those things that we studied and
Okay,
putting those
so you're
things
seeing
forth.
the words on the paper, but seeing them doesn't um it doesn't trigger your brain to remember what you know.
That's true.
Okay, but so when you hear the words, that will trigger your memory.
Exactly. I'm kind of different, I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah. Well, no, and but it's helpful to know where the breakdown happens, just like with the developmental model, um, because you can if you can build in the ability to do that, or you can work out workarounds. You can do workarounds. So I struggle a great deal with writing and reading and all of that stuff. I've not been diagnosed, but anybody who knows me is like, yeah, that guy's ADHD. Um, and so yeah, and so it's a serious challenge for me, Vern. Um, and I've developed ways of working with I don't like calling it a disability. I just think of it as different learning. So I have workarounds for it. And there's ways too that I have really dug in. It's very hard work, very painful. Um, it's not, I mean, I'm very uncomfortable when I'm writing papers and things, but I have developed the ability to do it. Um,
Interesting.
but really understanding where I break down in the process um, has been incredibly helpful for it. So one of the things I do, and technology has just been amazing with it, because I can get a book and I can listen to it and read it at the same time. So it's like I'm getting it both ways, because I'm a musician, and so I'm kind of like you in that hearing things really helps me learn something, and it does help with memory recall. And so very often I will listen to stuff as a way to learn it. And then in I haven't taken this kind of a test in a long time, but I can imagine that if I were able to be in a space where I could talk out loud, or take the questions
Yeah,
and put them into run them through like on a Mac, they can, there's a way, I think it's, I don't know, Command F or something. It makes the Mac speak the words. And so I can actually hear it. So that way, if I was taking a test and that helped, then I'd be able to hear, and it would help me with the memory recall. So
interesting.
those are some of the workarounds. Now, to develop the skill of reading and being able to do memory recall from it, that's much more challenging. It is, from my experience, it is doable, but it takes a lot of experiencing the pain and allowing myself to be with the hurt, anger, and fear that comes up for me with reading. And having all of the times of kindergarten and first grade, and feeling left out and different and all of that.
Yeah.
Like when I'm reading, especially in a test, like I'm re-experiencing all of that, and I feel very raw and upset, and I can do it. And it's not the most pleasurable experience, but I've learned how to stay with the pain in a way that I can be effective.
Interesting. Thank you. I don't mean to capitalize on time, but I hope that may be useful for others as well.
I think this is, I'm thank you, Vern, for bringing this up and being open about it. I think this is, everybody has different learning styles. And I think a lot of people are probably served by this. We live in a time where there's increasing complexities, and people, I imagine, will always be needing to get more and more certifications for their jobs. If people are going to continue to develop.
There, incidentally, sidebar, there's people in this area in Lansing, Michigan, that really, I'm a go-to person with regard to information for there's maybe 5 major developers in this area, and I'm a go-to person.
Are you able to make money off that?
Yeah, believe it or not, it's not consistent.
That's great.
I'd like it to be consistent.
That might be a workaround, is to, what would it take for you to have it be more consistent?
Yeah, well, more clients would be nice.
How would you get more clients?
Probably by those persons sharing that I do. I'm should we reliable.
Have you asked them to refer you?
I guess I haven't.
Is that something you can do?
Maybe I should.
Okay. Well, let's welcome Adam. Good to have you here.
Really good.
I'll do a quick room reset in a second here, but Vern, let's take a look at this. So noticing on the developmental model, so okay, I could ask my clients for referrals, They know I do good work. They, when they need something from me, they reach out and they know I can serve them. Now, to ask for a referral, I would have all kinds of scarcity come up, like, oh, well, they would have done that already if they thought of it, or they probably, I would just have a whole lot of stuff, like thinking some of it conscious, some of it unconscious. And I'd feel afraid that they would say, oh, what are you talking about? I'm not going to give you a referral. Like, I have all kinds of thoughts like that, Vern,
Yeah.
But then I can feel that fear of rejection or being let down. I can say, okay, well, that may happen, but I'm going to just choose to trust that I could ask for referrals. And the worst thing that's going to happen is the same as what's happening now. So I'm going to just trust that something more might happen. And right there, then I'm taking that into relationships. So I have a hunger for more clients. More clients would be affirming to me. And so I'm going to take that fear and aliveness into relationship with another person. Now I'm asking them. And just the act of asking and acknowledging that I'm hungry for more connection, more clients, just doing that, I'm already affirming myself. Even if they say no, but at least as an individual, I've affirmed myself. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
Awesome. Truly. Awesome. Well, Vern, thank you so much for sharing. That really, I think a lot of people can relate to that. So this is Career Lab Wednesday. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. There's a few ways that you can participate. I love it when you jump in like Vern is doing, and I get to talk with you one-to-one. That's awesome. If you can't, you can always type your questions into the comment section, and Jane will get those over to me, and I'll do my best to answer them that way. As you're listening in, learning how to listen well is a skill too. And so I like to set the context that whoever is sharing, your job as somebody listening in is to be seeing how that applies to you. They might not be in the same industry as you. They might be at a different point in their career development than you, but listen and see what you can get from what they're going through and see how it applies to you, even if they're a very different kind of person. And so I think, though, Vern, what you were sharing about, I think this is a universal thing of how to notice the emotions that I'm having about things in a way that can be productive and how to build rapport in a group. I think that's something that everybody can relate to. So welcome, everybody. Adam, great to have you here. Janet, welcome. Good to see you, Janet. Adam, if you're available, I would love to hear from you and hear how we can help you today.
Yeah, sure. Listen, and I'm sorry, I was just this is my first time of ever joining your thing. It just popped up on my LinkedIn, so
oh, wonderful.
I hit
the okay way to take the risk and jump in.
As I was walking on the treadmill, but so I don't have my camera on, excuse me, but listen, so here's the thing. I just wanted to provide a couple things. So just for context, I'm a long time career, 30 plus year career, real estate person who's lost my job is a result of company downsizing, economic concerns about, the upcoming cycle here. So I'm out in my, later 50s trying to start again in a industry where there's a lot of constriction right now, and it's tough to see the opportunity and stay focused when a job comes up and there's 200 applicants within 20 minutes, and you got to figure out how to stand out. But I just, before Vern goes off totally, I did want to if it is all right if we share a couple suggestions here across the team. I'm assuming that's what this is about, right?
I think so. Vern, is that something you're open to hear some suggestions?
Yes, here listening.
Okay. Because I hear you, Vern. Sometimes you sit there. I come with years and years of experience, and I often find I'm competing for a job with someone with 5 or 10 years of experience, and we have perhaps the same quote credentials, but there seems to sometimes be some hiring managers a greater emphasis on your degree or your certifications than on your experience. And there's so many people who will tell you that although that experience is very important, the experience of your academics or credentials are very important, but the actual on the job experience is priceless and can be. But being in the industry of design and development, I will tell you that there are sometimes it's just there's an incompatibility with the firm and the culture of the firm. So I think it's really important to try to make your best assessment in a listening mode, not really being defensive about it and making comment about how that impacts you, but just listening to, what is the culture of this firm? And if the firm is very fixed on credentials, and maybe it's for reasons of regulatory compliance, or they're in the public sector and they, like an accounting firm, right? They want to make sure that everyone who's working in an accounting firm is a licensed and certified accountant. And even though some people may be great bookkeepers, that firm doesn't want to take the risk there. They want to make sure that everyone is credentialed in a way that amplifies the integrity of their firm and the qualification of their firm and so forth. And so good workers sometimes get missed in that filtering, but it would be very hard for you to probably change that approach to the company. And so I think, to the extent that you can predict or observe what that company's seeking in a candidate up front, and if you don't fit that because you don't have that credential, maybe that would help redirect you to the better opportunities where you're not going to get filtered out on that. So in the design world, we work a lot with what are called in building real estate out designers, and they're not called architects because they're not certified or licensed architects, or maybe not in the area, the state that the project is in. So, but what they do is they work under architects who are, and they provide great service and support, and oftentimes, are really critical in establishing the details of a development, or even the design of a development. Right?
Adam, this is great. This is great. I want to see how this is landing for Vern, but that's really helpful for sharing.
This is great. I'm
so
wonderful.
Cool. Okay, thank you. I mean, I don't mean it, but so I guess what I'm just saying, Vern, is maybe looking for those specific opportunities where you aren't to be a sole person managing this, but to be working on a team where you can be a great contributor under someone who does have those certifications that might be necessary for the firm, or maybe working for a smaller firm, that isn't going to be fixed on certification as much as they are on you as an individual. But I do think that a lot of really other good advice preceded this about listening and being open, and maybe not even over explaining all the situations. The job is to get a job.
But that's really helpful, Adam. Thank you so much for jumping in and sharing that, for that context, and really appreciate it.
That's great, Adam. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
As much as I'm in the design realm, oftentimes there's a necessity as an ADHB person to, should we say, shine in those realms. And then planning oftentimes is, more regulatory.
Yeah, exactly. And, I would encourage you to really look at municipal jobs and jobs that are part of a government structure where they're, I think you may not encounter as much sort of bias, because they're just looking for that people with experience on the rote fundamentals sort of the job, right? That you can draft up this and that, and the difference between these different products used in landscaping and so forth. But regardless, I do appreciate this, and we all have our struggles, right? As we're sitting here trying to figure out how we get back in. And by observations on this small group here, it looks like, no one here, it looks like everyone is got some years on them to share. And
so Adam, I'd love to hear more from you, and if there's something that I might be able to help you with.
Yeah, sure. I mean, for me right now, it's just I come from a rich background of experience. In some ways, it is so broad that I come off as overqualified, right? Because and at this point, I'm willing to do any parts of my experience. I don't need to do it all again, right? So, in the real estate world, I've been involved in market analysis and market strategy planning. But then the next step, which is the transaction work and all the, finding sites and buildings and doing the transactions to acquire them. And then the third part is all the construction related activity to convert it from what it is to what you want it to be. And then handing that over into a corporate structure for businesses. I develop retail stores for the most part, but also office spaces,
Okay.
but that others use and are looking to accept in a turnkey and ready state for their success, right? And so it's like a relay race. So each of those parts is a different handoff, but more importantly, it's the handoff of who's giving you the baton in the first place, which is typically a large corporate entity who's got very deliberate plans for growth and the needs to accomplish their growth. Because I tend to work for public companies, where they've made promises to the marketplace. And then the last are those people who you've done all this work for, and you've got to hand off a working product to them, right? Something that's really going to make them successful. So
Adam, so this is kind of what you've been doing and your experience. What's if we have let's say 10 minutes here, what could you get in 10 minutes that would be really valuable for you?
Yeah, so it's how to take that breadth of experience and get it focused on the jobs that are available, which are much more narrow in their focus. So even though I've got years and millions of dollars of construction experience, I'm not, quote, a construction manager by career designation, right? I'm a vice president of development or a senior manager of real estate or something. And so what happens is my experience titles don't necessarily fit up with the job position that I'm applying for, yet my skill set is widely suitable for it. So I do my best effort to tailor my resumes for each application and write a cover letter or whatever I can on an online environment to fix on that. But I'm not always successful, when they're wanting someone that comes from a construction firm, let's say, or in a different part, the transaction side. I'm not a real estate broker, but
Adam,
do
you get any ins? One of the overall kind of concepts is that responding to job ads is sort of going to be not that you shouldn't be doing it, but percentage wise, most of hires will come from networking and from an introduction somewhere. And sometimes you can create that.
Yeah, I work with LinkedIn a lot to do that. I mean,
Okay.
I'll do in any job is see where my relationships are that can bring me to someone, in that company,
Okay.
more preferably
Okay,
in the department
beautiful.
or the hiring manager.
And so you're finding that you're submitting your resume, your cover letter, you're submitting this stuff and you're getting some introductions through networking. And then what happens? Do you get callbacks? Do you get
sometimes
interviews?
Yeah, I'll get callbacks, or I don't. I mean, I would say the majority of it is I get ghosted, and it's just no response whatsoever. But
Even after a networking introduction, or is this just the response?
no, those are where I don't necessarily have networking, but where I have networking introductions, and sometimes the networking is just an associate who's not close enough to probably move the needle for me, in terms of in a large company, they're in a completely different area and don't know those hiring people or whatnot. But what ends up happening is I'll get a response back, indicate, we're reviewing lots of candidates. We'll let you know if we have further interest, and then often that's the end of it. And so I don't know if it's an age thing because,
have you worked with a recruiter?
Yeah, I have. I haven't had great success with recruiters. So
okay.
I mean, I'm new out here on this, so I think I'm going to have to go, work harder to find some different recruiters than what I have. But I'm looking for, higher executive level type jobs, and it's
yeah.
I mean, they just don't come up all the time. The problem is that I can't wait forever for that executive level job. So I'm at the point where I'll take a senior manager job, I mean, I'm not going to tell them this, right? But in between us, I'll take it for an interim position. And if it works out, great, it works out. But, I just can't be unemployed for months on months. I've got to get.
When were you let go?
My job ended in November, but I have, a severance package that went on into March. So now I'm, scrambling a little bit. But November is a terrible time to find a job. In December, January, and I got a lot of inquiries and interviews for positions in early February, March, and then they were either filled by others or some companies just pull back on their hiring plan. So
okay, so I have another question, and I have some hunches, but do you know your personality style?
I mean,
any of the...
yeah, I think I have an appreciation for it. I don't know that I know it exactly.
When you make decisions, do you make decisions based on getting results? Primarily, like, do you make decisions more based on making sure you have all the data lined up and that you really have all the boxes checked and you have all the information?
It's a good thing there because I'm kind of between both, probably between those areas. I tend to be data heavy, but I definitely make decisions to get results. But there's always a lot of data behind my thinking.
And have you what level of so my hunch was that you're a analyzer regulator, which you kind of just said, and there's other personality types, but I didn't bring them in because I didn't think that's what you were. But you leaning on the getting results thing in this process is probably going to serve you the most. Sometimes with analyzers and this stuff is you'll share a lot of information and lose people, and they'll start writing you off before, like, and they're not going to say they're writing you off, but like you can lose people that way. And so that might be a helpful thing in this process of focusing more on results and really kind of like what people need. Is that helpful at all?
Yeah. No, I think that's good feedback.
And
I hear what you're
suspect
saying.
I'll pull up this model again. Janet, you'll remember this from last night. So this, Adam, as we look at like when faced with any challenge, so this whole thing here is a developmental existential model. It's happening all the time. I mean, just to click onto a LinkedIn Live thing and jump in and like say your name, on some very, unconscious level, everybody's going to feel some fear doing that. Like, oh, what's this? What's going to happen? And so there's the choice to trust. And then there's also the, I want affirmation. There's things I want in the world. Okay, so I chose to trust. Now I'm engaging, and we call that play sometimes, play engagement. And that's aliveness in relationship with others. And then here we're at with, and this one, Adam, and I just don't know you well enough, but just from kind of working with people, reactivity can often get triggered, especially around a big life change like this. I mean, it's a challenging thing, you're successful, things are going well, then you're let go because the whole, market's changing. And
hey, George, you can pick on me if you want to help develop some of the back.
You got it, Janet. Thank you. You got it. There's a significant amount of hurt and fear that you're going to be feeling in the process where you're at right now, Adam. And sometimes simply just being more aware of that and being able to kind of affirm yourself in that space will help you with asserting yourself and being more intentional to get what you want. And my hunch is that with all of that fear, you'll often give a lot of data as a way to kind of attempt to soothe yourself, but that might end up like not working as well. And so if you can lean more into the assertion of what I want, not what didn't work, what's not working, but here's what I want, and people will probably be able to respond to that easier. So that's just, I'm just looking for another excuse to bring this model that I love into this. So Adam, I hope that's helpful.
No, I hear you. I think I understand exactly what you're saying. So,
hey, Adam, if this is any consolation, I am a very heavy analyzer, and I'm going more analyzer regulator than analyzer cooperator. And it took me 7 months to find a job because I was switching accounting, and I would go into, George can tell you this, I would go into interviews and I would overspeak, give a lot of facts, give a lot of data, and I wouldn't hear back, and I'd be so upset from people because I'm like, what did I do wrong? And I've been working in this program for almost a year now, and I pop in on these meetings every once in a while just to hear the new stuff. And the developmental model actually has helped me out a lot, figure out, well, where am I at? What am I feeling at this moment in time, especially in interviews.
Cool. Janet, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm just seeing that we are right at time. I need to get rolling here.
All right.
And I'd love to talk more, Adam. We'll be back next Wednesday, and you can also set up a time with me. I'll serve you as much as I can in that 15 minutes. And if there's more, we can talk about that. And I want to drop a link into here that's the developmental model, a quick video on that's just on YouTube, available for free. So that people can take a look at that, everybody who's been viewing. And so, Adam, thank you for sharing. Vern, thank you so much for sharing. This is Career Lab Wednesday, every Wednesday, noon to 1. I'm here to help support you in your career, particularly from an emotional intelligence standpoint. And all questions are on the table. I mean, we've had people join in over months as they're going through a transition, and just using the group environment, knowing that there's other people with the challenges, that's a helpful thing to have. There's that kind of affirmation that happens in that process that's a useful component. And so sometimes, and so you're welcome, everybody, to keep joining in that way. If you just got a quick question, I'll do my best to serve you and answer that, or refer you somewhere where somebody could. And also great, Adam, thank you for sharing with Vern about, some of what's going on there, another way of looking at things. And so this group is really helpful for, group resources as well. So thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
And thank you, Jane, for sharing that. And I will see you next week. All right, take care, everybody.